Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to, cut through the noise and give you some real clarity. And today, we're tackling a subject that, well, let's just say it gets people talking, often with some pretty strong feeling. South African tenders. When you hear that phrase, what pops into your head? Is it like corruption? Maybe thinking it's all about who you know. Or maybe that image of instant wealth, big cars, easy money. Well, these aren't just random thoughts, are they? They're kind of the big myths, the stories that really seem to dominate the whole conversation. So today, our mission really is to demystify this whole thing, the South African tender system. We want to cut through those myths. We're going to look at the underlying realities, the structures, and, the real opportunities that actually do exist. We'll unpack those persistent myths, put them side by side with the actual processes, the practical challenges. Hopefully, by the end, you'll have a much clearer, sort of more informed view of how it really works, not just the headlines.
That's so important, isn't it? Because that perception, it can be a real barrier. You get good, honest businesses who just hear the bad stories and think, oh, it's not for me. The whole thing's rigged.
Oh.
And they just, close themselves off from what's actually a huge part of the economy. So yeah, our goal is to give you the facts, let you make up your own mind.
Exactly. Not trying to sugarcoat it, but give a balanced picture. Okay, so let's kick things off with maybe the biggest one, the one I hear constantly, this idea that, winning a tender, it's purely about who you know, that the whole system's basically rigged for political insiders, for the connected few. You've heard that, right? It's everywhere. Headlines, conversations.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really powerful narrative. And look, we have to tackle it head on.
Yeah.
Because let's be clear, corruption is a reality sometimes. It's regrettable. It needs attention. We can't deny that. But, and this is the crucial bit, it does not represent the entire system, not by a long shot. The tender process itself, fundamentally, it's designed with formal structures, things put in place specifically to prevent that kind of thing. Open bids, clear rules for the supply chain, objective criteria for evaluating bids based on merit, on compliance.
Right. So these rules and structures, they're not just like window dressing. They actually work in practice.
They do work.
Yeah.
Look, the myth gets all the attention, but the fact is thousands, literally thousands, of small and medium businesses win tenders every year. And many, many of them have zero political connections, none at all. Think about, say, a small construction firm, maybe somewhere like Limpopo. They could land a municipal road contract. How? Not through some dodgy deal, but because they submitted a fully compliant bid, they met every single requirement, they proved they could do the job. It's about following the process diligently. That's how they get started, build a reputation.
Okay, that makes sense. But I guess people listening might think, all right, thousands succeed, but how? What's the secret sauce for those unconnected businesses?
Is it just luck or sending in tons of bids?
It's rarely just luck or sheer volume. It's usually more strategic. The common denominator tends to be, firstly, meticulous preparation, getting every single document perfect. Every I dotted, crossed, seriously. And secondly, they pick their battles. They don't just bid on everything. They focus on tenders where their skills and capacity really match the requirements, often starting smaller, building that track record. Okay.
It's about being smart, being thorough, and being patient. It takes time.
So the takeaway isn't ignore the corruption problem. It's more like don't let the instances of corruption blind you to the fact that there is a legitimate structure, a path that works for those who are diligent.
Precisely. Corruption is a crack. It's a serious problem. But it's not the whole building. The structure is still there for those willing to engage with it properly. It's about focusing on the process, not just the negative exceptions.
Okay, that leads us nicely into myth number 2. And this one's tempting. The idea that tenders are some kind of shortcut. Quick, easy money. You put in bid, you win, and bam, the cash just rolls in. Sounds fantastic, right? Almost too good to be true. Think about the paperwork you might imagine is involved because, let me tell you, the reality is usually way, way more complex.
Yeah. This myth is particularly harmful because it just sets people up for disappointment. The reality, the application process is rigorous. It's demanding. It's definitely not a shortcut. It's more like navigating a maze, honestly, a maze of compliance. When we talk about paperwork, it's not just a couple of forms. It's mountains of stuff. You need compliance certificates, tax clearance up to date from SARS, obviously, a valid BEE certificate. If it's construction, you need the right CIDB grading. That's the Construction Industry Development Board rating shows your capacity. You need current financial statements to prove you're stable. And often, you have to attend mandatory site meetings just to understand the job properly.
Wow.
Each piece needs total accuracy. You have to be in good standing.
So it's not just filling things in. It's like Like preparing a legal case and a financial audit combined, that must filter out a huge number of people right there.
It absolutely does. And that brings us to why many businesses, especially smaller ones, don't get tenders. It's often not because the system is rigged, like the myth says. It's usually because they just can't meet those strict technical or compliance requirements. Simple as that sometimes. Maybe they missed one document or submitted something outdated, or they don't have the exact certification needed. And those criteria aren't just arbitrary usually. Yeah. They're there to ensure the job gets done right for public services. If you don't meet them, you're out.
That's a really crucial point. So the message isn't find a way around the rules. It's that the system actually rewards the opposite. Meticulous planning, being thorough, following every single rule.
Exactly.
It's about proving you're capable and professional through that process.
Precisely. A really well-prepared, fully compliant bid that speaks volumes. It shows you're serious, you're capable. That's what they're looking for.
Okay, moving on. This next myth, this one's got the glamour factor, maybe the most dangerous because of it. The overnight millionaire image. You know the story, or the rumor. Someone wins one tender, and suddenly they're driving the fancy German car, living the high life. Financial problems just vanish. Poof! It makes you ask, can a tender really do that? Is it instant wealth?
Ah, yes. This is where aspiration meets the cold, hard reality of government payment terms. The truth. Winning a tender is very rarely a fast track to riches. Why? Primarily the payment cycles. Government departments are, let's say, notoriously slow payers sometimes. We're often talking 60 days, 90 days, sometimes even 120 days after you've done the work, submitted the invoice, got it approved.
Hold on. 120 days. That's 4 months. 4 months of paying staff, buying materials after doing the work before you see any money. How does a small business survive that?
That is the million-rand question, isn't it? It's the critical challenge. It's often the make or break point. To actually deliver on that tender through those long cycles, you need serious working capital. Serious cash flow. You have to pay for everything upfront, materials, labor, overheads. You might even need to pay your own suppliers first, all before the government pays you. This usually means needing bridging finance, really solid financial planning, and understanding your cash flow inside out. I remember working with a small engineering firm. They were thrilled, absolutely ecstatic they won this big provincial contract. But then we mapped out their cash flow for the first 6 months.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the celebration stopped pretty quick. It turned into a very serious planning session. They realized they needed about $500,000 extra, just in bridging finance, simply to survive until that first payment came through. And that's common.
So businesses are effectively funding government projects for months out of their own pockets before getting paid. Winning is just the start of the financial stress, it seems.
Exactly. It's about surviving the win. And this leads to a really unfortunate reality. Many small businesses, they win the tender. They even do a good job, but they collapse anyway. Not because they're incompetent, but because they just run out of cash. They can't make payroll, can't buy materials. The money from the tender arrives too late. A potential success turns into failure.
That is incredibly sobering. Wow. So the really crucial point here then is that winning the tender is just step one. It's the starting line. The real test, the thing that builds actual success, is delivering the project successfully and, crucially, surviving financially while you do it. It's an operational marathon, not a quick sprint to the bank.
Absolutely. The focus has to shift from just winning to executing successfully. And too many people miss that in the initial excitement.
Okay, so we've pulled apart these big myths, the connections-only myth, the easy money myth, the overnight millionaire. We've contrasted them with the reality, which is often, pretty challenging. But that begs the question, if the reality is so different, why are these myths so sticky? Why do they persist? Why do they dominate how people see the whole system?
It's a combination of factors, really.
Right.
Several things feed into it. First, think about the media. What makes headlines?
Scandals. Corruption.
Exactly. Corruption stories are sensational. They grab attention, cause outrage, they sell. But what about the thousands of businesses quietly, honestly, winning tenders, doing the work, building roads, supplying schools?
Doesn't make for exciting news, does it?
Not really. It's the day-to-day success, and it mostly goes unreported.
Yeah.
So the public perception gets totally skewed towards the negative.
Yeah.
You only hear about the bad stuff.
That if it bleeds, it leads principle, applied to procurement. Bad news travels, good news.
Doesn't, pretty much. Then second factor, social media. It amplifies everything, especially the flashy stuff. You see the perceived quick wins, the fancy lifestyles. What you don't see is the 18 months of chasing invoices or the years of hard graft, the
Mhm.
stress, the planning, the sleepless nights that went into maybe one successful outcome. You see the highlight reel, not the messy reality behind it.
Yeah.
It creates this false sense of ease.
So the curated image beats the gritty truth online.
Often, yes. And finally, there's just a bit of human nature involved, I think. It's sometimes easier to believe success comes from who you know, the shortcut, the unfair advantage. It's perhaps more comforting than acknowledging the sheer hard work, the resilience, the actual capability involved in what you do.
Yeah.
Attributing someone else's success to connections might even make our own challenges feel less like our fault if we believe the system itself is inherently unfair.
That's quite profound. It's almost like we prefer the rigged game explanation because accepting the level of effort required puts the responsibility back on us. A coping mechanism, maybe?
Could be. It simplifies a complex reality, even if inaccurately.
Okay, but despite all this, the myths, the challenges, the negative perceptions, I want to pivot here because there is a massive flip side. There is enormous potential here. Real, legitimate opportunities exist.
This is the key message we have to keep coming back to. It's undeniable. The South African government isn't just any buyer. It is the single largest buyer of goods and services in the entire country. Full stop. Just think about the scale of that. Everything from basic office supplies to major infrastructure projects, IT, healthcare, catering, consulting, everything. The range is vast. It represents a massive market across nearly every single sector. If you're serious about growing a business in South Africa, this is a market you really can't afford to ignore despite all the hurdles.
So the opportunity is definitely there. It's huge. The question isn't if, it's how. How do you tap into it effectively? How do you navigate it?
Exactly. And to succeed, to actually win and execute tenders successfully, you need a specific approach. It boils down to a few things. Discipline, first. The discipline to follow every single step meticulously. No cutting corners on paperwork, ever. Continually improving your own processes. Then, unwavering compliance. Meeting every regulation, every requirement, even the tedious ones. Those rules are the gatekeepers. And fundamentally, the right mindset. You need to be committed to the process, not looking for loopholes or quick wins. Think of it as a long-term business strategy, not like buying a lottery ticket.
Okay, so this brings it all back to you listening right now. If you've been put off by the myths, if all the negativity has made you hesitant, just remember this. Yes, the tender system is tough, it's challenging, it requires serious effort, serious grit, but it is not impossible. Far from it. So many honest entrepreneurs build successful, sustainable businesses through tenders. They create jobs, they contribute. How? Not by cheating the system, but by understanding it, respecting it, preparing like crazy, and delivering with integrity. It's a hard path, definitely. But for those who are prepared, disciplined, resilient, it's a path with genuine rewards and real growth potential.
It really does come down to preparation and perseverance, building a solid, compliant business that can actually deliver. That's the core of it.
So there we have it, our deep dive trying to demystify the South African tender system. We've looked at those big myths only for the connected, quick, easy money, instant millionaires. And we've seen that while challenges like corruption and payment delays are real, the system itself offers huge opportunities. Opportunities for those who approach it with solid preparation, total compliance, and importantly, realistic expectations.
It's about swapping out that speculation and rumor for a clear, practical understanding.
Precisely. So as you think about all this, maybe mull this over. If respecting the process is the real key, as we've discussed, what specific part of your own approach, or maybe your business's readiness, needs the most attention right now? What's the one thing you need to focus on to successfully navigate the real world of South African tenders? Is it getting your compliance documents absolutely perfect? Is it sorting out your cash flow projections? Maybe getting more strategic about which tenders you even go for? Or is it just adopting that more disciplined mindset towards the whole thing? Something to think about. Maybe this conversation is giving you that bit of clarity to start. Until next time on The Deep Dive, stay curious, stay informed, and keep digging deeper.